Hend, here's a question for you. How, what are some mindset red flags, like things that you might think, or how you know that you have to take a pause? Like, what are some things that we can look out for in ourselves, as we're going through the editing process, where we're just like, whoa, I need to take a step back.
Okay.
What do you suggest in those times?
I love this question. So the first red flag is it's partly a mindset thing, and partly not. If you have based your character heavily on yourself, that is a huge red flag, my friends. It is very, very difficult to be objective with your book if you're basically the main character. So I want to warn everybody about this, because it's when somebody gives you then, the advice of, the feedback of, I didn't like this character, I didn't feel like this character was relatable, how can that not be personal to you? So if in your mind, your character is yourself, if you are your character, I really encourage you to put in the effort to change that character and make her be somebody completely different, as different from you as she can be, while maintaining the core of the story. What you need to remain the same, have that be the same. If it's the job that she has, if it's the family situation, if it's whatever it might be, certainly have that be the same. But then make her be as different as possible, because that's the best way to make sure that when you get that feedback, it will be, you'll be able to look at it objectively. So that was yeah.
That's a good
Yes,
one.
yes.
In terms of, we've talked about this a bit, newer Hedgies might not know, so I'll try to provide some context really quickly. We've looked at building characters through the lens of internal family systems and IFS. And we've talked about how there are different parts, and these parts make up, who we are, but also there's a self, and the self kind of guides who this person is. And so it's totally possible that your character will have parts of you in them, and it might be something worthwhile to know going into the editing process. Like, what are the parts that I use to write this, so that you are prepared if somebody says something about that part. They don't know that they're addressing that part of you. They have no idea. That's why we write fiction, so we can write the truth masqueraded. So that's such a good point, to go into it already knowing that, listen, there are parts of me in here that are vulnerable, that I gave to this character, but it's still the character. It's how the character is represented and how the character expresses that part. And that's where we're different. It's a different story. Awesome.
Definitely. And just other red flags. I mean, just like you said at the very beginning, if you go into the editing process not acknowledging that it really is a marathon, like if you say to yourself, I'm going to finish my edits in 2 weeks and then this book is out, right? If you go in with that kind of a mindset, that is a red flag, because that's not going to happen, my friend. And that's just going to depress you and hold you back. It really is. So you really need to be open to the process. Let it unfold as it will. It will take time. For lots of writers, the editing process is longer than the writing process. And that's perfectly fine, because you will hear so many writers say the real writing is in the rewriting. The real writing is in the editing. Even so many, when you talk about strategies about writing, like if you read a craft book, oftentimes if you read it while you write, it doesn't help you as much as if you read it while you're actually editing, while you're actually going in and making the changes, because that's where the real stuff happens. That's where the real magic happens. So just recognize that it is a long process. Recognize that it isn't something that you need to rush at all. There shouldn't ever be a rush on it. Just like any art, if you rush it, something will fall through, and you don't want that to happen. And I encourage you to, whenever you get feedback, always remember that there is probably some good in it. And using those 4 steps, taking the pause, acknowledging yourself, recognizing your team, and then mining the truth, that will really help you find the truth that is inside that feedback, that can help you strengthen your work for this project and for the future, because it's always something that you can use for future projects.
Lovely. Thank you. And then we do have a question. When we